called The Real Jurassic Park. It's a documentary about like Jurassic Park and getting the making and all that. Tonight on Nova. Actually, let me just sit better. Yeah, no, no, hell no. Oh, can I stretch this a little? Freaking dumb. Give me 30 seconds to see if I can get this to sit properly. Maybe about that. I don't know. Let me see. Or maybe maybe if I change something around here, because I can do video formats, and I can do like no video, and you go do full screen, yeah, but I want aspect ratio, not zoom. Aspect ratio, 4:3 aspect ratio, and then I do this, right? Okay, there. So now if I go back to stretch the screen, a little bit better. Fine enough for me. Life. I love this documentary. I've seen it like multiple times. I watched the first 15 minutes of it like just a minutes ago. And I have to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and be right back. Now that I think about it, I'm like, that's gonna suck. Yeah, it'd be possible to see him in a zoo. Would you want to see him in a zoo? Everyone would want to, but then you realize, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I can actually wait now. Go back and. Jurassic Park. I'm making sure it looks okay. It's not a good version of this YouTube user. The JP. The JP collection. Let's try and see what that looks like. Let's just see. What do you say? I think it's all one word. That's why. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the one, right? So it is. Okay. You said you gotta teach your T-Rex. He's like T-Rex, T-Rex, T-Rex. Why Elon Musk building a dino park isn't as crazy as you think? It's not. It's not. It's really not. It's not. He's also high frick all the time, so when he does a lot of his, from what I've heard. Yes. Yes. It's not that hard. Go to play. Oh, nice. We played the full game through of the game or Brick Toys. No, okay. Okay. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, it's cool, baby. Gotta turn this up a lot. Turn me up a lot. Turn me up a lot. Here. So let's just see this is gonna work. Yep, yep, should work. Yep, should work, so. Yep.
But each time he tried to extract it...
Nope, gotta start over. No sound. That was stupid. There was no sound in that. Just in the yellow, there you go. Like barely in the yellow. There, right there. There was no sound. Sorry, we'll see. Now there's sound, right?
It was a smash hit. A Hollywood fantasy. But could it happen?
I don't think there's anyone that has an interest in dinosaurs that wouldn't like to see one.
Can we really make a dinosaur from DNA? Follow Nova's step-by-step recipe for creating the real Jurassic Park.
Yeah, good. Now should be okay. Is that correct?
In the studio jungle of Jurassic Park, a billionaire's dream of bringing dinosaurs back to life is about to go disastrously wrong. As Steven Spielberg lets the carnivores out.
I think that should work, right?
I warned them it wouldn't work. In the movie, I play Malcolm, a skeptical mathematician. But like most people, Jurassic Park has left me wondering about whether it really would be possible to see dinosaurs in a zoo someday.
Depends. I think most people would want to see them. It's just if they want to see
This is the Komodo dragon exhibit, and it's one of the more popular.
Okay. One of the thing is, we have Komodo dragon, which is poisonous. We have lions, tigers, bears, alligators, all these dangerous, terrifying creatures that already exist now, and we're scared of them. So, like, you think we're gonna want dinosaurs?
Exhibits for reptiles in any zoo, and I think it's because these animals are, to most people, sort of living dinosaurs. Even though they aren't living dinosaurs, people imagine them as lurking in some island in Indonesia, ready to gobble up tourists whenever they arrive. Since Komodo dragons are such popular zoo animals, you can imagine that dinosaurs would be absolutely fantastic.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. We've made living biological attractions so astounding that they'll capture the imagination of the entire planet. How'd you do this?
Stephen brought to life these extinct giants in an incredible way.
He roars right there. This is where he hurls it into the skeleton.
On the sets, we could only guess what these computer-generated creatures would look like.
This direction so you can get the raptors on this side of his head. To get him around this way, you can see him grab like the raptor's tail, and then he pulls the raptor, he steps back.
Can you bring the McKinnon?
You put your head like right about here. That's how big the head would be.
Down there, and then from there he hurls it.
And then he would take a step back. He'd be wiping like right over camera.
Like that, yeah. Okay, then the roar, and then we go up to the sign. nice to make a small adjustment off him.
Of course, it's just science fiction. Or is it? Could the fantasy ever become a reality?
It seems like an incredible idea to think of living, breathing dinosaurs. It's the kind of idea that you think is going to be locked in the realms of science fiction forever. But about 12 years ago, I began to realize that it might indeed be possible to bring extinct animals back to life.
See that?
It might indeed be possible.
I remember in the early 80s walking on the beach with Marvin Minsky, who was at the AI lab at MIT, and saying in this very tentative way, I'm thinking about doing a story about a genetically engineered dinosaur and waiting to see if he would make fun of me. And he said, oh, well, yeah, that could probably be done one day, which I found very encouraging.
We talked to T-Rex at 32 miles an hour.
T-Rex? You said you've got a T-Rex?
Uh-huh. Say again. We have a T-Rex.
There's such a reality to it that's why I got really interested in this, because I said, God, science and adventure just come smashing together, and now it's based on what is probably going to happen someday.
This is the laboratory where the dinosaurs were hatched. It looks like real science, but of course it's pure Hollywood. But just suppose there was a person rich enough, crazy enough, and patient enough to try the experiment. Would it really be possible to recreate living, breathing dinosaurs? And how would you do it?
After biting a dinosaur, the mosquito would land on the branch of a tree and get stuck in the sap. This fossilized tree sap, which we call amber, waited for millions of years.
The notion in the book was that one could drill into this piece of amber, drill into the insect, and extract genetic material, not only from this animal, but also from whatever bloods it had sucked.
Bingo. Dino DNA.
The inspiration for Michael Crichton's plot came from George Poinar, a scientist who's made a lifelong study of insects in amber.
Well, the wonderful thing about amber is that it preserves the actual insect. You see, it's not just the impression, but the complete insect is formed even with all the internal tissues.
These insects were in such perfect condition that Poinar began to wonder whether their DNA, their genetic material, might also be preserved. But each time he tried to extract the DNA, he ran into trouble. He discussed the problem with his son, Hendrik.
We continued looking for DNA in this material and didn't succeed here at Berkeley. And then at that time, Jurassic Park came out. Hendrik was up.
Yeah, literally just talking it over with my dad as to whether or not something like that was a feasible project.
And he said, well, I'm taking this molecular biology class, and I can do it as a project, as a senior project.
Why not try? It's not going to hurt.
Hendrik suggested a way of cracking open the amber by freezing it with liquid nitrogen and exposing the tissue of the insect. But what would it take to extract DNA? Hendrik was not the only scientist who wanted to find out.
Well, in Jurassic Park, the author makes it sound like isolating DNA from amber and fossil material in general is quite easy. And the reality of it is quite different. It's very hard to get DNA out of fossils. If we get a fresh-caught specimen, say a fly or a moth that we'll get outside, it'll take us a day or two to get DNA from it and actually sequence that DNA. It took us over 6 months to get anything out of amber at all. Rob?
Rob DeSalle and Ward Wheeler succeeded in isolating DNA from a 40-million-year-old termite. But this specimen, like most insects in amber, was formed 25 million years after dinosaurs became extinct. Close, but not quite old enough.
If one wanted to try to recreate a Jurassic Park scenario, we have to work with considerably older material. And some of the stuff we have here is from the Cretaceous, lower Cretaceous of New Jersey. So this material was alive when dinosaurs were alive.
Most of this Cretaceous amber is broken up into smaller pieces. As you can see, though, some of these pieces will hold insects, and this is a particularly nice insect.
That's actually the oldest bee ever discovered and described there. 100 million years old.
And if we're starting to talk about biting insects, there were biting insects back from the Cretaceous that we find in amber.
This little creature here is probably about the size of the head of a pin. That, I imagine, would be much more difficult to
make
get
the task of extracting DNA pretty difficult, very difficult.
These tiny insects from the age of dinosaurs were a tantalizing challenge. Back on the West Coast, Poinard Jr. was still plugging away. Working under Dr. Raul Cano, he was looking for DNA in insects over 100 million years old. Just as the movie was released, the team made an amazing announcement. They'd gotten DNA out of a 130-million-year-old weevil.
So basically what we've done here is we proved that DNA can be retrieved from pieces that old, which is a crucial step to be able to go on to, try to look for dinosaur DNA.
Since then, they've found traces of DNA in the guts of a blood-sucking insect, and they think it may be dinosaur DNA. So now science is starting to sound like science fiction.
We wouldn't have any idea as to what type of species of dinosaur. We would know whether it was a T-Rex, a duckbill, a triceratops.
Give me 30 seconds. I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna turn off this camera for a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Where's the camera? Okay. Camera's back on. I need to... Oh my god. Okay, you know what I'm gonna try and do? Okay. Actually, camera's going off in off. What did I just do? Dang it, I thought this was a 2-to-1. Oh no, I have that. Adapter, don't I? Or I did. I had an adapter around here that converted 3 to the 2. But now that I don't put that adapter now. So that's up downstairs. Give me a sec. So I found an adapter. It's like 5 adapters now. Kind of a little bit much, but let's see if I can. No, it goes that way. No way. Oh no! You're kidding! Oh no! We'll do this later. Okay. This camera. I'm gonna need room, so I'm gonna make room. I just need to now figure out where's the off button on this thing. There's no off button. Oh, it's one of those. Is that it? It's one of those. Unplug it. Can't leave this on for too long, but holy crap. That doesn't even really work. Does it? I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see if this would work. I mean, yeah, okay, sure, a little bit. If I turn this one off, right? Okay, well. Can't listen off for like 5 hours. Got it.
Tops, we wouldn't really know.
Some of these blood-sucking insects in this Albertian amber may have the blood cells of quite a range of dinosaurs in their stomach.
Tough as it is to untangle dinosaur DNA from the DNA of the insect itself, figuring out which species of dinosaur it comes from is impossible. The only way to do that would be to go straight to the bone. Now, until recently, nobody thought it was possible to isolate ancient DNA from fossilized bone. That's why Michael Crichton chose the insect in amber root. But tiny fragments of DNA can survive in bone if the conditions are right. These saber-toothed tiger bones are preserved in tar. Thousands of years after this animal stumbled into a tar pit, it's now on a laboratory bench in Virginia. By scraping out the middle of the bones, a group at the National Cancer Institute has managed to extract small pieces of DNA.
That thing's hot. Oh,
Nobody has announced finding DNA in dino bone yet, but there are plenty of people looking. In this climate-controlled warehouse at the Smithsonian, Noreen Turras can choose specimens from a vast collection of the history of life on Earth. Many species are extinct, yet they could contain ancient DNA, genetic clues to the evolution of life. Within the dinosaur collection, she hopes to find bones which haven't been fully fossilized. Although if any dinosaur DNA has survived in these vaults, it'll be in pretty bad condition.
Ancient DNA is very beat up. It's chopped into small pieces, and it's chemically different than modern DNA. We know that other substances come along with the DNA, but the easiest way to see the difference between ancient DNA and modern DNA is in the color. This brown pellet in the bottom of this tube is an ancient DNA sample, where the clear pellet in the bottom of this tube is modern, contemporary DNA. So when we talk about going back in time as far as the dinosaurs, we have to be aware that if there's any remnant DNA, it's going to be in very bad shape. Okay, this is a piece of dinosaur bone. The bone surface is glassy and smooth. It's been weathered through 100 million years in the geologic record. The oldest sample to date that we've extracted DNA from is a 13,000-year-old mastodon from southern Chile. We have worked on a wide variety of samples, and when we go to choose a sample, we look for certain landmarks in the bone. On the scanning electron microscope, you can see the hole through which the blood vessel traveled. This feathery surface is where the protein is still embedded in this bone. And where we find protein, we find DNA. But dinosaurs are a long way out there in the vertebrate fossil record. I think we've got a lot of work between the 13,000-year-old mastodon and the 100-million-year-old dinosaur.
In Jurassic Park, the scientist Alan Grant is based on a real paleontologist, Jack Horner. His young admirer is clutching the book he wrote. In another collision of fact and fiction, one of Horner's current projects is digging DNA directly from a dinosaur.
Well, on the shelves right here, we have a almost complete skeleton of Tyrannosaurus rex. This is its femur, and one of the things we've done is actually pulled out part of the marrow, and that is what we are attempting to find biomolecules in. So what we've done is tried to put together a small group of people that know something about biomolecules, since I don't. Attempting to find some DNA or something like that.
Horner's being a little bit cagey about the results until they're published, but the word is his lab may have found T-Rex blood cells inside that thigh bone. It's curious that just like bird blood cells, these cells seem to have a nucleus. And if they can extract DNA from those cells, it could help us to solve the riddle of how closely related dinosaurs are to today's birds and reptiles.
And there's certainly enough people looking for dinosaur DNA. And if they're all successful, then we can pool the data and maybe come up with a common sequence found in dinosaurs.
So if we can get the DNA, could the mighty Rex be resurrected? Well, there's a major hurdle to get over. Fossil DNA exists in tiny fragments, and millions of pieces may be missing. Before building T-Rex, we would need all of its DNA. Maybe we need another strategy.
And then my teacher told me about this other book by a guy named Backer, and he...
Now, there's another way to make a dinosaur besides fossil DNA. This is a ground hornbill, a meat-eating bird. And that bird has genes for making teeth, like a dinosaur, and a long, scaly tail. The genes are turned off. The little off switches to the genetic code. If we could get into the egg and the sperm from someone like Charlie and his mate, we could get those off switches. And go click, 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 turn them on. We could grow teeth in the jaws and a long, scaly tail, and even claws on the wings. And the first step...
Boy, I had a light up here. I had like one of those work lights. God dang, those things get hot as frick, man. Gosh dang it. Do you like Jurassic Park? Have you seen Jurassic Park? I watched all 4 now? No, 5. 5. And there's supposed to be a 3rd Jurassic World coming out soon. Anyway. Yeah.
Has been taken. Laboratory experiments have produced birds with teeth. So we've made that first step of turning Charlie to a beast like this. This is a jaw of a meat-eating dinosaur, an adult, just about as big as Charlie. This is a raptor. And maybe with manipulating his eggs and sperm and a little bit of luck, we can get tooth-bearing tail drag.
Finally, when you make a Steam, you can always post hi in the chat. Streaming. Yeah, that's what I do. Every time I stream, I put hi, and then I make sure somebody says hi back to make sure that the stream is working. Usually. So I wasn't doing that for a few days because I was like, oh, I don't have the chat next to me necessarily the same way. And so, or like through the web browser. Now I went back to doing that because I'm like, what's the point of that? Now I have 2 monitors too, so it's good, and I can have one playing the thing, one there. So this is a documentary about the real Jurassic Park. You might have missed about 15 minutes of it. It's not the worst. But basically, they're just saying how we can make dinosaurs in the real world. And he's talking to the backer, one of the guys from that little Tim from the Jurassic Park movies where he was talking about this guy. He's like, oh, and then my teacher told me about a guy named Backer, and then he goes to this guy. So, yeah. Ponar, and then Backer. So, yeah. I think it's Ponar, and then Backer, and then, yeah, so, yeah. So now they're talking about how they can make a dinosaur through this.
Egging dinosaur.
But this genetically engineered creature,
Jurassic Park.
It'd be a weird collection of dinosaur parts, not a real dinosaur.
The real Jurassic Park.
Surely the whole point of a dinosaur park would be to see the real thing.
Can you hear me and the thing?
But maybe Charlie's DNA could be useful in another way.
At the right level, at a good level?
Since he's related to the dinosaurs, perhaps sections of his DNA could fill in the missing pieces in the fossil DNA.
So now I'll figure out a better lighting situation
Next,
tomorrow.
we would need to know how to arrange these millions of pieces, all the DNA sequences, in just the right order. Then we would have the complete printout of a dinosaur's genes, its entire genome. One hell of a jigsaw puzzle. Although very long, the DNA molecule is very simple. It consists of just 4 chemical components, or nucleotides, which are repeated in different combinations along the chain.
Then the next step is attempting to make such a molecule or such a chromosome. Well, in order to do that, you have to come in here to the automated laboratory and use a machine which is a scale-up of something like this. This machine makes pieces of DNA. You type in the actual letters of a nucleotide sequence, And at the end of the day, in these little bottles, out come a piece of DNA, which is precisely the sequence that you
all I want
typed
to know
in.
is the level of the
limitation
audio
is that you
on
can
the
usually
video
do a little
that we're
bit
watching.
over 100 nucleotides in one day. Well, if we're
Loud
going
enough.
to make 1 billion nucleotides, or base pairs, stretching from one end of the genome to the other, you need 1 million man-days using this kind of machine. So clearly, we have to improve the technology if we're ever going to talk about synthesizing huge pieces of biologically relevant genetic material.
Is the sound of this
It
video
is not out of the question that in 50, 200 years, we could start talking about synthesizing entire chromosomes. But we're not there yet.
If the first step is successfully completed and
Like
all the
anything,
DNA assembled,
having like some kind of
we would now have the blueprint for a dinosaur. But turning raw DNA into living animals has never been done before.
How you go from DNA to an embryo is extremely unclear at this point. And so my procedure in writing the book was simply to skip that.
It does. It's really bright now.
So if we could imagine that we had all the DNA that would contain all the genetic information to make the dinosaur, the question is, how would we use that to turn it into a dinosaur? Now, Jean-Paul, who's working in here, is good at sticking DNA into cells. And he's going to show that with a needle containing DNA, which we could imagine could be the dinosaur DNA. And he's putting it in now into the embryo. Here, tell us what you're doing here.
Yeah. So just insert a needle in the embryo and then put some pressure on and DNA gets in.
So the idea we cooked up is that we could take the DNA and inject it into cells which came from an animal that would be related to a dinosaur, similar, especially similar perhaps, would make an egg that would be similar. And the obvious example is an ostrich, nice big egg. But we haven't worked out really how one could substitute the dinosaur DNA into the ostrich DNA.
I mean, plus what we're doing here, I mean, basically I'm putting a fish DNA into Drosophila, but it's only one gene. Now it's easy to keep one gene, but how do you replace the whole damn genome, basically?
Sticking individual genes into a host cell is pretty easy, but trying to replace all the genes is extremely tough. Somehow, we'd have to find a way of getting the dinosaur DNA to take over the ostrich DNA without killing off the ostrich cell.
So the next step would be to take these cells and grow them in culture. And the purpose of that would be to make many copies of the cell, and let it divide and grow and divide again, so that the nucleus, which contained the information of the dinosaur, would, step by step, protein by protein, transform them from ostrich cells to dinosaur cells. We've now got the cells, and we're growing in culture, and they seem to be growing quite well, at least we imagine that situation. And now we've got these cells. Now the question is, these are body cells. So how do we get them to make a dinosaur? It's not so easy. There's more problems still to come. Body cells can't be transformed really into proper cells to make eggs and sperm. So what I was thinking was we could maybe take nuclei from those cells and transplant them into egg cells that we would have taken from an embryonic ostrich, if that could be done. And then transfer the nuclei into those, and gradually the nuclei from the body cells would take over these sex cells and turn them gradually into effective dinosaur egg and sperm cells. We could transfer those into the embryonic ostriches.
Would you imagine that happening? I couldn't imagine that at all. There'd be no selection. Why should the dinosaur cells take over?
Another problem. Well, maybe we could target the cells under a laser microscope like this. Zap the unwanted ostrich nucleus with a laser, and the dinosaur nucleus might be able to take over the cell.
And then we put it back into the ostrich, and the
embryonic ostrich, I think.
Back into the embryonic ostrich. And then when that ostrich grew up...
Two ostriches, one
ostriches,
male and one female, and then...
They would produce ostrich eggs containing dinosaur information.
And ostrich sperm.
Containing dinosaur information. And then when the ostriches mate, product...
Yeah, they could mate in the normal way.
That's good. That's one problem we don't have to think about.
And then, of course, it would be exciting in this imaginary world, because then you could watch the eggs and you wouldn't know which eggs were going to turn into dinosaurs and which were going to turn into ostriches.
I insist.
on being here when they're born. Come on. Come on. Come on, then.
Well, if we've gotten this far, we've conquered some of the most mind-boggling problems in developmental biology today. And now, we'd need to look after our newly hatched dinosaurs.
If you can take your dinosaur DNA and accomplish all the intermediate stages to this point, stage of the embryo, then you're very much farther ahead.
Okay, now.
Because it's actually quite easy to go from the embryo stage to a full adult animal.
To a full adult dinosaur.
You might think in order to accomplish this that you would require a Tyrannosaurus rex mother. But in fact, you don't.
You don't.
We know from existing technology that you can do it without any mother at all.
It's a hot day, so they're not very active. What's the frequency that you're seeing now in the courtships?
Average 5 times a day at this point for this pair.
Yeah. How close do you think she is to laying?
I'd say a few weeks.
Oh, it's still a lot of time. This is one of the incubation facilities for the California Condor program. And there's a lot of precautions we take because this is a bird that's on the very edge of extinction. We minimize the number of eggs that are in any one room, and certainly the number of eggs that are in any one incubator. Most typically, it's 1 egg per incubator to avoid any problems with an infection being passed from one egg to another. The eggs then have to be monitored very carefully, and I think the dinosaurs in those early days, the data you get would be very, very important, looking for the very same things we do here.
Light a candle. You want to turn the lights up?
Great. While she's candling, she'll look for eye pigment, she'll look for vascularization, check for all of the things that...
Okay, you don't think this is fun? Okay, well, I'm watching the whole thing, so I don't care if you want it or not, I'm watching this whole thing, so... I love it, so... No. Oh, yeah. Okay. When was the last video this guy made? Let's check. 2 years ago. The Netflix show was 2 years ago? Wow. That's a long time. Not that bad, but it's a long time.
Right, listen. This is the baby. This is the minion. Who did you put them together? The minion!
No, sorry, doesn't. Oh, that's why. Do I get this? No, I don't. Do I get this? Maybe. Nope. Don't. Sorry, that didn't work.
Right, listen. This is the baby. This is the minion. Who did you put them together? The minion!
that tell her normal development is going on and that all of the systems are coordinated.
Okay, that's good.
So even without knowing the parameters for a dinosaur, we can start to make some rough guesses
Do they
based
have,
on the things
like,
we've done here.
better lighting in front of me? I don't know. Or behind me? On to me more like. Is he starting to orient towards your hand with your feet?
A little bit. Yeah, he's starting.
Maybe that means he's just watching the video. Oh, nice.
That means he's starting to create a little heat.
See, the camera pulling the condor doesn't need a mother to actually, like, not to hatch, like, a late egg, of course, yeah. But to actually, you know, what's it called? Like, raise them? No, you have to do this, what they're doing right now, to make sure that they have actual, like, they know that condors are their, like, but they have to go...
The puppet is intended to give the chick something to focus on, to provide it with an image of what it is, so that when the bird goes to the wild, it does not look to a human being to mate with, does not look to a human being to supply it with food, and that as far as we know, the greatest threat to the condor is in fact the human being.
Like I might switch cameras or something.
I think if you wanted the dinosaurs to reproduce on their own, to recognize their own species, some artificial puppet may be very helpful.
I'll look for tomorrow to see better lighting situation.
These are Jurassic Park
The
dinosaur eggs.
one of those like work lights.
As you can see, they're roughly the size of an ostrich egg. But in fact, an animal the size of a large building grew from an egg this size.
Yeah, you know, and they grow like 3 or 4 or 5 times as fast in a year. So for a lot of
what is this?
Dinosaurs, it's like takes like
What
a couple of months and bam.
Maiasaura, right? Now, when these babies hatched out of their egg, they're pretty little compared to their mother, right? Yeah. How fast do you think a dinosaur could grow?
An inch each day.
An inch a day? Well, that's quite a bit. Yeah. If you're going to build a park with dinosaurs in it, I'd say the first thing you'd probably want to do is do some planning on how long it takes to grow a dinosaur. And one of the things that we do here is look at growth rates of dinosaurs.
Horrible.
And we do that by looking at bone histology, the actual internal structure of the bones. When bone grows, it needs holes in it for blood vessels. And the size of those vascular openings all have to do with how high the growth rate would be, how high the metabolism would be. So you take an area like this and then pick out a certain amount of space, and whatever we color blue, we can measure. So 30% of it is whole space. 30% is pretty high. Based on the vascularization and direct comparisons with birds, it appears that the baby dinosaurs hatched out of their egg at about 18 inches long, grew to 3.5 feet in about 3.5 weeks, reached 9 feet the first year, and reached adulthood, or what we would call about 20 feet, in about 4.5 years.
Look at the wheeling, the uniform direction changes, just like a flock of birds evading a predator.
They're flocking this way.
If we've reached the stage where the dinosaurs are ready to leave the nest, we would now have a new problem. They grow very large, very quickly, so we'd better find them a suitable home. In Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs come from 2 distinct eras: the Cretaceous, which ended 65 million years ago, and the drier Jurassic period, which ended 145 million years ago. These Louisiana wetlands might suit Cretaceous dinosaurs. They could meet up with some old friends. Giant alligators, similar to these, thrived in the age of dinosaurs.
This is Cretaceous. This is the closest you get anywhere in the world to a perfect Tyrannosaurus rex habitat. Oh, little gator. This is frozen in time. This is a Cretaceous fish. I've dug hundreds of these giant armor-plated gars. This is your typical fish. You come to Wyoming with me. You dig Triceratops, you dig T-Rex. Guaranteed you'll find hundreds of these armor-plated scales and skull bones, occasionally jaws.
How long do they go back, Bob?
Ooh, gars go back further than Triceratops. They'll go back, nearly 100 million years with hardly any change at all. So, since the Rockefeller Refuge is full of gars, and since the Triceratops beds are full of gars, that's strong evidence that the habitats are extremely similar.
Oh, wow.
So you set up your plane eaters back here. Herd of Triceratops, herd of duck-billed dinosaurs. You just manage them like they were cows. All right, I want to show you the beast I'm talking about. This is your duck-billed dinosaur. And this is the guy we would run on the Rockefeller Refuge in place of cows, right? This Hummer will run you 3 tons, square beak, cropping grass and sedges close to the ground, long schnoz for maybe feeding underwater, huge eyes, very visual beast like a gator, molar teeth like a cow. You could run 1,000, maybe 2,000 head of these in the range. And then preying on it, this guy, Tyrannosaurus rex, that's upper tooth, saw edge. That's a real Hummer. That's an armor-piercing tooth. So if you have 1,000 duck-bills, maybe 2 or 3 mated pairs of these guys. And if you compare that tooth to your big gator, 10-foot gator, T-Rex tooth is about 5 times bigger. We'd have to do something to protect your biggest gators from being bitten in half. Now worry about your clay bottoms a little bit. I mean, your soil here is real swampy, right?
Very so. Yes, on top.
Yeah. T-Rex has big spreading feet. I think it could negotiate. Brachiosaurus, the big long-necked dinosaur, has compact feet, like an elephant, and I would not put Brachiosaurus here. So if you want to put Cretaceous dinosaurs in a moderate environment, this is ideal. If you want to put Jurassic dinosaurs, you gotta find somewhere else.
A giant conifer forest, perhaps. With their long necks, the brachiosaurs could feast on the treetops.
Go away!
It's okay. Brachiosaur.
It's a Vegisaurus, Lex. Vegisaurus.
But how long would the forest last? It's a problem familiar to the keepers at San Diego's Wild Animal Park, which has been stripped of most of its vegetation.
Was the smart one, and Tim was a real absolute idiot.
Paleontologists can theorize about a real Jurassic Park. Here, they come face to face with some of the practical difficulties.
Actually, when these rhinos first were introduced into this exhibit, a lot of the vegetation was the chaparral-type shrubbery. And they wouldn't eat the diet that we had for them. They started eating all the shrubbery. The exhibit itself used to look like the surrounding hills with the chaparral, but the more animals you put in, of course, the more damage they do. So whatever you plant in here, you have to protect. That would be a big problem with, I'm sure, a Jurassic Park type situation, too.
At San Diego Wild Animal Park, the tram carries visitors through different habitats.
There we go.
Going into East Africa now? These are the northern white rhinoceros.
In a dinosaur park, they could travel through time, too. From Cretaceous dinosaurs wallowing in an artificial mud hole to the Jurassic dinosaurs, which would thrive in San Diego's dry climate.
You'd want to have a few hundred animals for genetic diversity if you're going to be breeding them. But again, you'd probably have to have, several areas to hold up the
several little groups.
That's right. So you'd have to have more than one Jurassic Park, I would think, to really make it successful.
Well, Jurassic Park is roughly the size of this park, as it's described in the book. So if you could have 10 Triceratops here and you needed 300 to keep them healthy, you need parks all over the world.
You would. I don't see
set up one
any other way to do it.
Jack will set one up in Montana, I'll set one up in Wyoming. There's 3.
All right.
Once we've designed our artificial Cretaceous and Jurassic environments, we need to make sure the dinosaurs are fed properly.
I'm loading up right here 1 day's feeding for one of our elephants. Our elephants weigh anywhere from 6,000 to 9,000 pounds. And if you look at a dinosaur, which may be many, many tons, think of multiplying this amount of food and providing it on a daily basis. One of the other problems that exists is what exactly would you feed these large herbivores? Most of the herbivores that we have now in zoos, large animals, elephants, rhinos, hippos, giraffes, they eat grasses. In the Jurassic period, there were no grasses.
The biggest problem is finding the plants.
The right plants.
The right
Plants have evolved a lot in 68 million years. And your deciduous plants now have a lot of alkaloids, poisons in the leaves to inhibit browsers. I don't know whether your duckbills can handle...
grasses would be...
Could your duckbills handle
here.
grass and
I
poisonous
don't think so,
leaves?
no.
That'd be tough.
Let me read this for a sec. like the I ate little baby's ice cream guy, but younger and not covered in the ice cream messy eating homemade chocolate. Wait, what? I don't know that kid. I don't know if I know that kid. Sorry. Or the guy. I don't know if I know that guy. I don't know if I know that kid, but yes. Oh no! Stop putting everything on this side. Put it here, you dum-dums. Okay.
Her teeth aren't made right.
She was one of my favorite when I was a kid, and now I see she's the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
In Jurassic Park, we stumbled across a triceratops struck down with food poisoning.
We know they're toxic, but the animals don't eat them.
You know that.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
There's only one way to be positive. I'd have to see the dinosaurs dropping.
Dino. Droppings? Droppings?
Right. There's no trace of
We faced the biggest pile of dung in cinema history.
Well, dinosaur diet. Dinosaurs are definitely not made of plastic. They're living organisms. And if we're going to figure out how to feed them, we will have to look at their dentition, the plants that grew at the given time, and also possibly at their byproducts. And this includes dinosaur dung. And Karen here is a student of dinosaur dung who has been working on this.
Problem is, when you're working with fossil dung like this, we don't always know who dung it, or who dropped the dropping. So we can tell some things by looking at fossilized droppings like these. For example, through a microscope, you can tell that there are some pieces of bone, fish bone, fish teeth in here. This is from a carnivore. Over here, we have some droppings from herbivores. Now, when you think about an herbivore the size of say, a hadrosaur or a duck-billed dinosaur, that's comparable to an elephant. And the food they eat is very fibrous, and when it comes out, it may come out in a nice shape, but when it hits the ground and when it's trampled by other animals, it's not going to hold a very nice cylindrical shape such as this. And we find these droppings near an area where we find quite a few fossilized Maiasaura bones. So it's quite likely that this is from a Maiasaura duck-billed dinosaur. When we take thin sections of this material, we can see that they were eating conifer stem tissue. So in this case, it's kind of interesting that we can see that they were eating one of the plants that was probably in the area.
Today, you can still find plants closely related to species that flourished when dinosaurs were alive.
30 seconds. Oh my god. Never mind. Holy crow. I was gonna download something? 4 days. 6 days. My god.
And let's take a couple of fossils and go look at some cycads. From our understanding of the fossil record, this would be one of several possible sources that dinosaurs were eating, particularly in the Jurassic.
Right.
And you can see in terms
I've seen this.
Now, this just in, police officers in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, were asking people to be on the lookout for a man who robbed a store. And I think we do have his description. Can we take that? Let's take his description. Okay. This is the guy. They wanted people in Pennsylvania to be out on the lookout for. He's got a nose and some hair that goes like that, and he was wearing a hat at the time of this particular crime. He's got kind of a chin that comes down to almost a point. Stands about 5 feet 4 inches tall. There it is. Get a good look for yourself. Oh, and now I'm getting word that police actually caught this guy, thanks to the sketch, no doubt. So here's a picture of the real guy next to the sketch that led to his arrest.
Where's the pointy chin?
It's uncanny, Lisa. The guy on the left is now charged with 2 counts of theft. Is being held in the Lancaster jail. And I say give that sketch artist a raise.
This wouldn't be so funny, except it's a real sketch.
That was actually the sketch that the police sent out to the good folks in Lancaster. And, hey, to their credit,
They've got him.
they came through.
Okay.
Minus the hat.
The food quality not very good. I think that the slow regeneration of leaves and the infrequent production of reproductive materials, that probably even a small herd of dinosaurs would not, these plants wouldn't support them.
No.
To provide a dinosaur park with a constant supply.
That's a problem that they don't think about, like that in Jurassic Park. They never like talk about and bring up. How the heck did you keep them what did you say? Support these dinosaurs with the food, right? How did you do it?
Of vegetation would require plants that grow back very quickly.
Look at all these ferns.
Well, that's one place where the Jurassic Park would actually be able to satisfy both Jurassic and Cretaceous dinosaurs in the modern day. Because both tree ferns such as this and the lower growing ferns are fairly fast growing, and they'll recover from herbivore action fairly quickly.
Perhaps with a few thousand acres of quick-growing plants, we could satisfy the appetites of the herbivores.
It's the carnivores that's the problem, I think. Is that what it is? It's the carnivores that are the problem. Let me just check them quickly. Oh, is it this kid? Yeah, it was that guy. I was right. I knew it was this one. I don't understand this commercial at all. What's the like, why?
Now this just...
I don't know.
But what about the carnivores? Would T-Rex like his dinner on the hoof, or would dead meat do? A jumbo steak, perhaps?
T-Rex doesn't want to be fat. He wants to hunt. Just
I think Malcolm was talking
suppress 65 million years of gut instinct.
That's gigantic. It's big and eat me alive. No wonder why they called that the king of reptiles, eh? Yeah.
How many people here like Tyrannosaurus Rex? How many people think Tyrannosaurus Rex is about the neatest dinosaur? It's the king. What did Tyrannosaurus Rex eat? Really? How did Tyrannosaurus Rex get its meat? Are you sure? You know, there's a lot of animals that eat meat that don't kill things. We call them scavengers, right? They eat animals that are dead already.
Oh yeah, in the early 2000s, or actually like the late 80s, early 2000s when, or sorry, the late 90s, early 2000s where everyone was like, maybe Tyrannosaurus Rex was not necessarily a meat eater. No, not necessarily a a hunting meat eater. Maybe he was a scavenger. And everyone was kind of like, what? You're not. No, man. No, man, you crazy. He's just like, am I though? He's like, no, you're crazy. And for a long time, people were like, no, you're not. Right? And then eventually people were like, oh, maybe, coming around to that, idea. Right? They were coming around to that idea. Not that they all thought, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, but, I've seen this.
Have you ever wanted to stretch the hell out of your friends Mickey and Donald? What? Well, now you can. Please go.
Armstrong. It's a Disney Stretch Armstrong. That's what this is.
Please stop.
After like free whatever version, light, whatever you want to call it. Now I use KineMaster Pro, and it's bam. Good gosh, so much better. But not that I use it a lot, but yeah.
Goofy, why? Show your friends Mickey and Donald who's the alpha male with stretch the hell out of your friends Mickey and Donald.
Have you ever wanted to stretch the hell out of Spider-Man and Hulk? Well, now you can. Ah! I'm in knots! Ah! Oh, Hulk's bent. Ah! Oh! Let's do it even more.
Break. I'm sure there were stories of kids just doing exactly that. This one right here.
Let's do it
exactly
even more.
Exactly that right there. And then the whole thing cutting, breaking at like either here, or like here or here.
Hulk hurt! Show your friends who's the real villain who stretched the hell out of Spider-Man and Hulk.
I'd love to have one of these. Trilogy. Prominent Banjo. Let me see what's Prominent Banjo. Okay. Is it a Prominent Banjo? Is that a Prominent Banjo? Let's see. Let me see. Oh yeah! Not a bad banjo.
When I talk about Tyrannosaurus Rex possibly being a scavenger, nobody likes that.
I know they're like.
Why do I think it's a scavenger? On a run.
They're like, no. That's you're stupid, man. Man, you're stupid. And everyone's like, and he's like, am I though? And then eventually, like, only recently, like 2007 or so, when people started to come around and go, like 2005, 2007, around there, 6, 4, whatever, around there, and it's like, am I though? Am I? I'm not. And he's like, yeah, well, actually, is he crazy? I don't know.
Animal, a running bipedal animal. The tibia, the shin bone, is a lot longer than the femur. And on.
Yeah, okay. Daft Punk Around the World. Maybe Around the World official music video. Weird. Around the world. It's 3 words in the whole.
T-Rex, the shin bone and the thigh bone are the same length, which would suggest that it certainly is not a fast runner like some of the other dinosaurs we see.
That fast. So when John Hammond goes and from the first scene, he's like, "Oh, we clocked the T-Rex at 35 miles an hour." It's not fast. The Raptors can go like 60 or something, crazy, or can run like 45 or 50 or something, like much faster.
But not all paleontologists think T-Rex was a slow-moving scavenger.
These animals are built for hunting and would have hunted. Maybe they would have followed the herds and taken out the juveniles or the older individuals that were lagging behind the rest of the herd. but that's the kind of thing they were probably doing. If you look at tyrannosaurs, people often feel that the front limbs are totally useless. In fact, those limbs are quite powerful.
They're terrible. Can't use those
For their
arms.
length, the limb bones are quite thick, and they have very strong muscle attachments to those limb bones.
If we look at the arm over here, we can see that Matt has reconstructed the muscles. He's made an Arnold Schwarzenegger arm there, and it's pretty much muscle bound, right?
Yeah, it is. There's very little movement in the elbow joint. This is probably about as far forward as the forearm could go. So if he can touch his chest to it, then his fingers would be able to reach it. So maybe he picked something up and just held it close and just helped him along. He certainly wasn't capturing anything with it.
No.
You know?
That's the problem. But Tyrannosaurus is like he has his hands behind his back, and so he's got to run after and catch something with his mouth. And I think that's dangerous. You know, you could bite into a triceratops, something that's really big, and that triceratops doesn't want to get caught, and it's going to move around, and all of Tyrannosaurus' teeth might just be stuck in the back of the triceratops, and no more in his mouth. He'd look sort of like this one here.
Whether T-Rex liked to hunt or not, in a real Jurassic Park, he wouldn't be given the chance. In zoos, carnivores are rarely fed live animals. They're too valuable to risk infection from a bite. Dinosaurs would be priceless. Having brought them back to life, we would have to ensure their safety, as well as the public's.
Yeah, right. Part of it. How'd you keep the animal safety?
As we come up around this corner, if you look back at the Squaw Valley Agricultural Preserve, that means that it's not open to commercial building. That's why you don't see any.
With any animal transported to a new environment, there's always the risk of new diseases.
Yes.
The biggest problem of animal husbandry, keeping a brachiosaur in a zoo, is its immune system.
What the heck?
Drop a 144 million year immune system here into San Diego. It's going to be besieged by all these up-to-the-minute, cutting-edge, modern viruses and protozoa and bacteria. So you'd have to watch it. You'd have to take blood samples, shit samples, maybe even
blood samples, poop samples, shit samples. How long are they going to take? Yeah, 1 day passed. Great. Oh, you give it the same one, okay. 8 to 0, let's check. Ah, dang it. Oh no, what's it called? The same one. Copy the same one. This video is in reverse. Okay, so reverse is back. Is it in reverse? No, it doesn't make any sense. Weird. This like eating stuff is weird in my opinion. That sandwich is kind of Well, this video is in reverse. The reversed video of something, but the actual video itself like wasn't reversed. I guess I don't know. motion-y looking. A little bit of stop motion-y looking.
X-rays of the lungs, you just have to watch it every week.
Yeah, sure.
Try to build up its immune system so it can handle 20th century germs, an animal that's 140 million years old.
One of the problems that very large herbivores have here, particularly elephants, which are the largest, is maintenance, daily maintenance and care. In their natural habitat, they may travel 40 or 50 kilometers a day, and their footpads wear down in the wild. Here, they don't wear them down as much, so we have to do that wear for them mechanically. You would imagine sauropods would have a very similar kind of foot pattern, considering their weight. How do you deal with that?
Like the feet, like
There's abundant evidence that Triceratops would be just as hard to contain as a 7-ton white rhino.
A little bit like
The white rhino's the
a little bit like
fastest galloping animal today. Can go at 30 miles an hour, all 4 feet off the ground. Turn on a dime, too, faster than a horse. Triceratops had very muscular legs, bent legs for fast acceleration. The head was huge. The horns are gigantic. Head was perfectly balanced, although it was 7-8 feet long. Perfectly balanced for a quick twitch left or right or up and down. To handle a Triceratops, then, you'd have to outfox it. You wouldn't want to outmuscle it, you wouldn't want to outrun it, and you couldn't outturn it.
We learned here that there's a possibility that when we first built the exhibit, the animals might be able to climb out under a stress situation. A truck came by, scared one of the cheetahs, and it started to climb, and it looked like it might get out. It didn't get out, but we thought, gee, I guess we better make a little additional precaution in that case. And I think that's the kind of thing that's going to happen if you were to have real dinosaurs. Every place that has animals has animal escapes. Regardless of what systems you put together, something will break down.
Chuck, no. Carl something. I know it's Carl something. The blogging guy, Carl Wagner, I want to say. No, Carl. That's Unis Wagner. Shay Carl.
Absolutely still. Suspicions based on movement.
Dinosaurs had the eyes of eagles, the snouts of gators, really good sense of smell. And I would reckon on a night like this that's warm, you'd also have to be really careful because the T-Rex could trail the game rangers just on smell alone.
Turn the light off. Turn the light off.
That thing apparently is a real, like, anaconda. Apparently, there's people that make it.
Hang on to one of the safety rails. There's about an 8 to 40 foot drop at any given time, so be very careful about that. We wouldn't want to interrupt the lion's feeding schedule.
If you have an animal escape, and there are people out there, on the train.
On the train.
Then what do you do?
Okay, we have a fail-safe system to where we set up different scenarios. What we would do is the last person that sighted the animal would try to stay in visual contact with that animal.
Okay.
So we would set up a ring of trucks and then dart an animal.
Oh, dart an animal.
We'd need a bigger train.
and then bigger fences and a deeper moat. Imagine a Sumatran tiger that weighed 5 tons and that was 20 feet tall.
That would be a situation that we'd have to look at and try and develop a standard operating procedure for, I would guess.
The velociraptors and the deinonychids, I think they would be probably the most difficult because you'd pretty much have to wait until you had some before you could figure out what they could do.
The fences are electrified, though, right?
That's right, but they never attacked the same place twice. They were testing the fences for weaknesses systematically.
Oh, I see now. I always thought that was a stupid idea. It's like, why would you not hit the same place twice? But like you just said, I just figured out why he did that. Maybe I figured it out before, but like now it's actually hitting me. It's like, oh, okay. They're trying to find the weak points of the fence. They'll never hit the same place twice. They're like, ow, ow, I thought they were trying to weaken it. No, no, no. They're trying to see where the actual weak points are. M something or other.
They remember.
In Jurassic Park, the raptors are portrayed as being very intelligent animals. And in fact, there's quite a bit of evidence for that. We found over the years bits and pieces of raptor brain cases. And these brain cases do give us a pretty good idea of how big the brain would be. This is one of the raptors, Dromaeosaurus, and the brain would occupy this region right here from the top.
You know, one of the bigger, if you look at it right from here, it's one of the bigger brains in dinosaurs, because a lot of dinosaurs' brains are like, oh, it's hard to explain. They're like this big. They're like the size of about a pea, sometimes about a chickpea, sometimes about like a, maybe an avocado pit, if you know that size. They're not orange sizes, or they're not, grapefruit sizes. No, like us. We have like a somewhat, like a small, almost like a bowling ball size brain. A small bowling ball size brain. I don't know how to explain it. One of those, like, 5-pin bowling ball things.
Or if you look inside the skull, you can actually see the cavity where the brain would have sat. You have to remember that the mammals that were alive when these dinosaurs were alive weren't much more intelligent than the dinosaurs. Their brain size relative to their body size was about the same. And because of the larger brain size in these dinosaurs, we really do believe that these were going after not only lizards, but mammals themselves. And that may have been what forced the brains to become larger and forced these animals to become more intelligent.
There's the other thing, too. I think it's, in Jurassic Park 3, they talk about how, I just watched it on my iPod Classic. They talk about how if they had just kept evolving, bam, everybody would have just literally, one like. Give me one like, please. I want one like. Please. Anyway, so yeah. That they could have become the dominant species if humans didn't evolve the way they did.
Things really started to fall.
Also, in the book, she's a vegan, and she doesn't eat any of this stuff. It's just weird. In that one scene, she has to find a bunch of vegan food, and it's like, what are you doing? What a nut! Why?
Apart when Steven Spielberg unleashed his most terrifying creation since Jaws, a vicious carnivore called Velociraptor.
I think we would all be dead if there was Velociraptors. We would be able to contain them to the long way. I personally don't think. I don't. But,
the Velociraptor wasn't mean enough for Steven Spielberg. He wanted to make a larger animal, twice as big, to really scare the public.
Yeah, I know. They're like, because in the movie, that's not an accurate representation of the size in Jurassic Park. Basically, they're the size of about small chickens. Small chickens. They're the size of chickens. And then he goes and makes them the size of about, Great Danes. If you know Scooby-Doo, about that size. And it's like, that's not right at all. That's not the, accurate size. Anyway, size representation. But, representation of size. And, he doesn't only just do that. He goes and makes the Dilophosaurus? No, the Dilophosaurus, the one that has, the one that goes like this, and, spits out poison. He makes that thing, the Dilophosaurus. Anyway, he makes that thing have, his weird, and not only that, he makes them poisonous. I mean, I don't think they're poisonous. That might be true, but the thing with the weird neck thing, yeah, no. The weird mane looking thing. No, that's not real.
Just about the time that he was putting together the movie, we made a discovery in this quarry that held out his views of what a real terrible dinosaur would be like. And here's part of the king of the jungle. This is the sickle claw, or hind foot killing claw, of our new animal, Utah raptor. And this was found lying right down over there by that rock hammer. This claw here would make a cut just by turning it through a full 180 degrees on this tendon, about 3 foot long. As it kicked its feet, that would be cuts 5 and 6 foot long. Every time it kicked its feet like a cat to to disembowel its prey. Not a pretty picture, and would produce wounds larger than the bite of a Tyrannosaurus rex. I mean, I would figure a Siberian tiger would last about 5 seconds with it. The biggest dinosaurs, the brachiosaurs, the ultrasaurs, this animal could theoretically take on, even individually, if not in packs, if they were pack hunters. A very formidable animal. You would want to defend yourself against an animal like this getting loose, because it would be unstoppable.
This is just a delay. That's all it is. All major theme parks have delays. When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked.
Yeah, but John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
The Pirates of the Caribbean. The Pirates of the Caribbean ride breaks down. The pirates don't eat the tourists. And it's like, hey, here's some Jurassic Park toys. I want the one that I had, which was, well, I had something. I had, nope. That's cool. That's quite 3 ones. Not bad. $77. That's a cool one. The Dilophosaurus. But that's the Jurassic World stuff. So I can buy this stuff myself. That's the problem. My problem with all the Jurassic World stuff is they still sell that kind of stuff. So like, is it Hasbro or Mattel? Let me check. I gotta check on one of these. Like, oh, that's a cool one too. Yeah. Okay, where's this stuff? Where is it? Not that one. Not that one even. This one. Is this Jurassic Park or Mattel? Oh, sorry, Hasbro or Mattel? Hasbro. Okay. Hasbro.ca. I don't know if that's a thing. Hasbro.ca. The website I can go to.
I can't wait anymore.
I think it's important to remember that Jurassic Park is fiction. It's a fantasy, even though it's also a cautionary tale about the hazards of genetic engineering. But it may very well be at some point in the future that it's possible for us to recreate these amazing animals and make a place something like this.
I don't think you're giving us our due credit. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Yeah, I don't. The purpose of what we do is not.
They're too preoccupied on whether they could make them, right? They didn't think of. Sorry, wrong one. They didn't think of if they should. Yeah. Let me just see. Okay, cool. So let's do that. What? That's all you got? No way. No, I want actual Jurassic World. Nerf Play-Doh lives by Star Wars Potato Head. Okay, go back to the home page and see what they were showing me. They were showing me something. For real dinosaurs. Jurassic World toys. I'd love a Jurassic World toy. That'd be so cool. Target. Okay, Jurassic World Walmart. Jurassic World Shop. Mattel. Oh. Those were Hasbro. These are Mattel. Oh. Yeah, there you go. It's Mattel, not Jurassic World. Okay, we can proceed. Yeah. Sure, why not? Go for it.
To recreate extinct and terrifying.
That's what they're missing. They're missing the whole fact of, well, you're so preoccupied on whether you could make dinosaurs, you didn't think of whether you never thought of whether you should make dinosaurs. Like, should you make dinosaurs? I don't know.
Things to menace mankind. I mean, we study these things because we find them interesting, because they tell us about the history of life in the past, about what's going on today. But we're not going to try to recreate anything and unleash it, basically. That's not what we're interested in doing.
Let's see what you watched. You watched your last lesson today? Like your last lesson of the year, or last lesson of today? What? Let's see what you watched. What did you watch? And why did you watch it? Let's see. Holy, which one? The first one? Graphic inside the living body? Ooh. Looks like a pretty interesting one. I don't know. The healthy dance. what do you think of the video you're currently watching? The Jurassic Park one? I love it. I think it's great.
Cells.
Ew.
Now from now until menopause, the same thing will happen every month.
Yikes! You watched all this with all this like, strange stuff, man. Yikes! Oh, you did. Oh, they developed
Muscular contraction.
like human. Ew. 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 Yikes. Yuck. I really like the one we're watching out. Such a good one. Such a good video. This one. Love it. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Very good one.
We take a moral argument, we take a position of a great, moral argument that this should never have really happened. And Hammond brings up the point that if he had recreated genetically a whole flock of condors, a current endangered species, nobody would be throwing up their hands and making such a fuss.
I think any billionaire planning on setting up Jurassic Park would have to give a great deal of thought to the political implications. Behind me we have the California condor, and you'll notice that the facility is surrounded with barbed wire. But that's not to keep the condors in. That was to keep people out, because early in the condor program, with the numbers so low, there were many people who didn't believe we should try to save the condor. And they felt that the condor was better off dead than in captivity. And I think certainly as you look at dinosaurs and consider the world today, that is what you're talking about. You're recreating a living organism to be a living museum piece. It would be only in captivity and with no hope for release to the wild. If we get into the politics of genetic engineering, obviously, there are a lot of pros and cons against generating new or extinct kinds of animals. But I don't think there's anyone that has an interest in dinosaurs that wouldn't like to see one.
Let's roll 4 cameras, please. You're on the speed.
For the moment, our closest encounter with the dinosaur will be at the movies.
Okay, and first we're going to say action, so action.
In the final symbolic showdown, the computer-animated dinosaurs destroy their ancestors' bones.
Cut! Ready!
Could the fantasy become real one day? To bring dinosaurs back to life would require the box office receipts of every Steven Spielberg movie ever made. And that's just to tackle step one. The scientific obstacles are enormous. And even if it does become possible in 50 or 100 years, should we even try to do it at all? Perhaps we're better off marveling at the past rather than tampering with the future. And got the Jeep. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. We have one like a Walmart or something. Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna grab the name of this. I'm gonna check because I only have Walmarts. Now. Saying goodbye now, so. Say goodbye now, so.
I'm going to be finishing soon. Actually, not right now, but yes. I'm going to just check if they have them at Walmart. Please have it, please have it, please have it, please have it. No! They have a men's Jurassic Park Dennis Nedry costume. I got a Dennis Nedry one year for Halloween. I took the same coat, like yellow coat, and basically crapped that stupid coat for like 4 years. Because what I did was, I basically went, I went as him, and then I went as Dick Tracy, which, so they don't have it. Okay. So then just this one. How much is this one shipped to me? Echo.c. Eh? No, well, that's it. I gotta do like this, this. There. Now will that work? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. No. Fine, let's look up Jurassic World and who they have at Walmart. They have the 5 movie collection. Oh, all of the Jurassic Park and World and all that. Okay. Oh, they have this set. $300. Gosh, buying it. Let's see what they got in Jurassic World stuff. That's cool for $5 or so. That's not cool. I'm not paying that much.